Hey guys, it's Cassie, and welcome back to my channel, Miraculous Talk. Today, we're going to be doing a synopsis and analyzing the new episode, Leech. But before we get into that, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel so you never miss a theory, a video, or any miraculous buzz. Without further ado, let's talk Miraculous. So the synopsis is, the mayor has partnered with Gabriel Agreste. They're going to build this oxygen tower and to help clean up the pollution in Paris. And Maylin and Ivan see the negative of it, of that it's going to tear down all the trees. So, they're protesting. And Officer Roger, he ends up being told to take them home. Marinette sees all this happen. She goes to school. She tells Miss Bustier what's going on. And Miss Bustier says, it's a civics lesson. Let's all go to the park. They all wind up at the park. And Ivan and Maylin are back. The mayor is doing his groundbreaking ceremony, and the protesting is going on, and the kids are asking questions. He ends up calling Gabriel and saying, hey, I need some help with our project, and Gabriel's like, you got this, you'll figure something out. Of course, we know Gabriel is throwing him under the bus so he can be akumatized, which happens next. He becomes Maledictator again. His sentient monster is Leech, which looks like a giant floating finless fish. It was really weird. Maledictator jumps into his mouth, and then all of a sudden, all these tiny little itty bitty mini Maledictators start popping out from these little holes, these little like target holes on the sentient monster, and there's just streams of Maledictators coming out of it. These little Maledictators jump in people's ears and take over their brains pretty much, and have them start chopping down trees and trying to capture Ladybug and Cat Noir Miraculous. Ladybug ends up getting Maylin to help as the mouse Miraculous holder, and then she enlists the help of some of the other team members, such as Vesperia, Carapace, Pegasus, and Ryoko. With the team, they wind up defeating Leech, Maledictator, and everything wraps up, everything is good, but there's a very odd, awkward, tense scene with Gabriel and Adrian at the end of the episode that we're going to talk more about. Let's start talking about how the episode was in general. It was not as intense as some of the other episodes we have seen so far this season, like Optigami or Senti Bubbler or Rocketeer. Part of that is probably because it's towards the beginning, and they're still building up to the more tense episodes. But I'm also going to say that it's also kind of giving us breathing room to not be quite as intense, but still being very impactful with its message and its content. Because this definitely had the most superhero message out of any of the Miraculous Ladybug episodes we've ever seen. And it was all, be brave, be courageous, believe in yourself, and fight for what you believe in. And if that is not a superhero mantra for the whole show and the everyday superhero, I don't know what is. I mean, and it's a great lesson for everybody. The other message we see is pay attention and don't be self-absorbed in yourself. We see this when Maylin and Ivan tell the class that they did try to get their help, but they wouldn't listen. Nobody paid attention for the last 6 months while they were protesting. But while we're on this topic, in all the stills we see Nino and Adrian, Kim and Max, Alex. We never once see Marinette, or Alia for that matter. What's interesting though is this is taking place over a course of 6 months, so where is Marinette? Is this just another clue leading back to Gang of Secrets, that she's been so preoccupied with everything, that it's just kind of building up on that world they've created and solidifying it? Because I don't think she's been Guardian for 6 months. It's a long time. It doesn't seem like it picked up that far away from the events of Miracle Queen. The next thing is be observant and ask questions. This comes from the class being at the park, and the mayor shows the ad of what the tower is supposed to do, and it has Adrian, and everything looks all wonderful and carefree and light. And Rose is like, it doesn't look so bad. And Maylin's like, well, yeah, it doesn't look so bad, but that's the presentation. You know, look what's gonna happen if they build this. And of course, all the trees are gonna be torn down. There's gonna be bottles, you know, plastic bottles that are waste that's gonna wind up in like landfills or oceans. And so it was basically like, don't just take this for face value, ask questions about it. Well, the other thing we're talking about here is Gabriel. And Gabriel letting Mayor Bourgeois just kind of dive in to this whole fiasco. I don't know if Gabriel knew this was gonna happen, or if this is just, you know, great happenstance for Shadow Moth. But he pretty much throws Mayor Bourgeois under the bus and says, he'll be fine, knowing full well he's not gonna be fine and that he will be able to akumatize him. So let's talk about the mayor's akumatization. Okay, so he becomes a maledictator again, and his Senti monster creates a whole bunch of copies of him, just like Multi-Mouse does, well, Polymouse. Whole bunch of copies, and these copies go into people's ears. All right, so I always kind of got a little bit of a heebie-jeebie kind of feeling about, you know, things crawling into your ear. So Maledictator hopping through people's ear canals is no different. That was an interesting choice for the Miraculous team, I have to say. Nothing like keeping us on our toes and being surprised in the episodes. So there are a few other things that I want to talk about and mention before we get into the heavier topics, the ones that are the more meaty subjects. So first off, Ladybug is talking to Cat, and she basically paraphrases the same thing that Malin said in the park about we don't need one miraculous solution because one miraculous solution is not going to work. We need many small ones. Now, Cat should be going, wait a second, didn't I just hear this in the park? So he either should be wondering at this point, wait, is Ladybug Malin? Or was Ladybug in the park next to me? Like, he really should be thinking this. Another thing that happens though with Cat is he does get a maledictator in his head, which is so weird to say. It's been maledictated. It's like being akumatized but with a maledictator. But that leads me to, maybe that's a little bit of foreshadowing that he is going to get akumatized later this season, just because he was taken control of. Other thing I want to mention is I really loved seeing the team bounce away at the end. Like, they all landed in front of Mayor Bourgeois, and then Ladybug talks to the mayor, and Ladybug, you know, zips out, and everybody follows her, and you see them all kind of jump over the roof. That's kind of a cool moment. I don't know why I like it so much. Maybe because we only ever see Ladybug and Cat together, and maybe because we've been seeing some very tense moments, but it also kind of leads me to believe that maybe the Time Tagger future is not as far away as we think. And I'm kind of looking forward to see how that plays out. But I also want to see if y'all noticed what I think is possibly an animation mistake. So Ladybug gets the Lucky Charm back from Polymouse, and she uses it, and she gets her normal suit on, and she goes to the mayor, and she pulls out the magic charm, and she has her normal suit on, but then she's giving it to him, and she does not have her normal suit on. And then she's talking to him, and she has, it looks like her normal suit. And then they do a picture, and she doesn't have her, and she has her new suit on. And then she goes to leave, and she has her original suit on again. Like, there's a lot of back and forth between her new suit and her old suit, and there's no point in there that it really seems to make sense. I don't know if we're just supposed to believe that her suit changed after she got the magic charm, but then before she left. So I'm thinking it was an error. The other interesting thing I want to point out is Marinette got a badge, a little pin from Malin when they got into the sewers, and it looks like at the end of the episode, you just barely see it, that Malin has it back. She hasn't seen Marinette since Marinette lost her in the sewers to transform, but you can just see the top of that yellow badge. So it wasn't supposed to be there, but it is. So I have to say, you know, when I did, I think my first video for this channel, I said that I really thought there was going to be some Adrianette development in episode 10. There are a couple other little moments where, for instance, Marinette is talking about the commercial and how gorgeous he is in the commercial, and he's standing right next to her. And he's like, huh? And she's like, oh, no, nothing. And then at the end, she is talking about how handsome he was, but she's glad she opened her eyes to see, you know, what was going on. And he goes, what was that, Marinette? And she goes, oh, no, nothing. I was just saying, you know, despite how good the ad looked, it's good that we opened our eyes and realized what was really going on. But how could he not hear her? He is right next to her. And Ollie is right next to her going, hello, look, he's right there. He had to have heard her. He had to have heard her. Marinette also did show her ladybug side at the park when she talks to the mayor. And she's very logical and brave and well thought out. She doesn't stutter, which I noticed in the episode. She didn't stutter when changing what she said to Adrian, like covering up that she was saying he was gorgeous and handsome. I don't know if that's a translation thing, or if maybe she's just getting better about things, because like in Guilt Trip, the next episode, she does kind of stammer a little bit, but you see her say, pull it together, Marinette, this is not the time for this, and she does pull it together. So I don't know if that is part of her feelings changing or part of not wanting to get swept away by them. So one other thing that was super interesting here is how long it seemed like Marinette stayed in a ladybug form after she used her lucky charm. There was so much that went on. She used her lucky charm, you know, she got a little maledictator, she cleansed the Akuma, then she was gonna like throw the charm in the air and, you know, Kat's like, wait, no, it didn't work. And then she had to go find Maylin in the sewers. She gave her the Miraculous. Then they had to walk to where they were going. Run, walk, whatever. So she went to go help Kat while Maylin, Polymouse, was fighting Maledictator. Polymouse and Ladybug had to save Kat from the little Maledictator in his head, which, by the way, super funny that it went in his cat ear and not his real ears. Who knew that actually was a thing? Like, we've seen him use his ears before. Like, in Animan, we saw that he knew when he was coming, he could hear him. But I didn't think it actually worked like that. And then she goes and gets the other teammates, and they fight, and they win the battle, and she talks to the mayor, and I timed it. Roughly. It's at least 7 minutes, maybe 8. That she gets the lucky charm and all this other stuff happens, and then she changes back. And we don't even see her change back. So I don't know if maybe she's just getting stronger and she's able to keep her transformation longer. So I don't know if it's just, you know, we're supposed to do suspension of disbelief again, or maybe this is a sign that, you know, they are aging and growing up through this whole process and learning how to control their powers a little bit better. So I just want to take a minute to appreciate the plan that Shadow Moth had here. I mean, yeah, he failed, but let's just talk about how creepy this plan is for a second. Besides the fact that, you know, things going in people's ears, think about this for a second. If Ladybug couldn't stop Mega Leech, it would have duplicated and duplicated and duplicated, and it would have just taken over the world. Now, let's think about it from another way. If she was able to stop Mega Leech, but wasn't able to capture all the Akumas and the Amuks in time. Now, I say this with the Amuks, I don't really know. I know with the Akumas this happens. They would have multiplied, because that's what they did in Origin when she didn't catch the Akuma. They could have duplicated themselves and taken over the world. No matter how you spin it, Shadow Moth could have taken over the world in this episode. If he had better villains, if it was in the script, all this stuff, you know. But how creepy is that? I mean, I know I said that this episode wasn't as intense, and you know, it wasn't, but the fact that that even is a possibility, you know, when you stop and think about how the episode could play out and the stakes they were looking at, that actually is pretty big. So now that we're getting into more of the meatier stuff of this episode, there are a few things that were very important to the development of not just this episode, but of the season, I think. First off, that was the introduction of Maylin as the mouse Miraculous holder. So the next important thing that is talked about is dealing with fear. And I think that is huge. You know, we first see this when Maylin is in the bathroom kind of psyching herself up to go protest. So she's scared. The next time we see this is before we get in the sewer. Maylin runs by the alley, sees Marinette, and says, Marinette, come on, we gotta go, we gotta hide. And she's gonna go down the sewer, and she wants Marinette to come with her. And Marinette, trying to think on her feet because she needs to get away and transform, says, well, I'm scared of sewers. Maylin tells Marinette that she's scared too, basically, and that she's always afraid. But fear is nothing to be ashamed of, and that it's a natural reflex, and that we can overcome it. She gives Marinette a button, a little yellow button with a tree on it, to kind of like help her be brave. And I feel like that kind of resonated with Marinette to some degree because she saw the strength in Maylin, which is probably why she ends up giving her the mouse Miraculous. But it also, I think it resonates with her in some other ways. See, I feel like that line about we can overcome fear was so important to the show. You know, when we get to Scenty Bubbler, we see Ladybug Marinette dreaming that she, you know, has been revealed, and then she sees Cat Blanc, and she has a lot of fear, and she's having a lot of doubts. There's just a lot going through her mind. Obviously, if she's having nightmares about Cat Blanc, she's still dealing with some serious fear issues from that episode. You know, Maylin saying that, I think it is kind of a foreshadowing of Marinette's gonna have to deal with her fear. Whether it's the fear of Cat Blanc, or whether it's her fear as Marinette, sharing her true feelings for Adrian. Again, we come back to sharing her true feelings for Adrian. And the synopsis for the finale. I think it's gonna happen, guys. And this is part of that building up to make that happen. She's gotta face that fear. She's gotta conquer that fear because she can overcome it. Then the next thing we see about fear is Maylin doesn't think she can be a superheroine. She tells Ladybug that she's afraid of everything. And she tells Ladybug, I can't. And she shows how every button represents something that she's afraid of. Ladybug tells her that by even facing her fears on a daily basis like that, she is being a superhero every day. And Ladybug also references one of the most famous quotes about courage. Courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the judgment that something is more important than fear. The quote itself, or like a variation of the quote, has been attributed to a number of different people, including, but not limited to, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Nelson Mandela, General George Patton, and the author by the name of Ambrose Redmoon. But there's a lot of other people that said a variation of it to some degree, actors and other leaders. So it's definitely well known, but it goes back to the series and kind of setting a tone for what Marinette's gonna have to face. And that is the fact that she's gonna have to overcome her fear. She's going to have to establish that something is more important than her fear. Again, back to the synopsis for the finale. The next thing that talks about fear is when they are in the end of the tunnel where that big fan is, and Polly Mouse is gonna have to jump over it to get her little mini me's to go everywhere. And she's like, I'm not afraid, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. The whole episode, we just see it being about overcoming your fear and, you know, finding the courage to do what you need to do and stand up for what you believe in and fight for what's right. The last thing we need to talk about with this episode is the last scene. I don't know what's going on for sure, So we have Adrian walking into his house, and Gabriel is standing there basically waiting on him. Gabriel says, you stood against me, Adrian. And Adrian's like, no, I didn't. I stood against a project that was bad for Paris and bad for the planet. You know, and my friends proved it. You know, it wasn't just something I did on a whim. There was a good reason for it. But the fact that we're having this conversation between Adrian and Gabriel, we all know who they really are, my brain automatically visualizes, and I would love for somebody to do a comic on this because I so want to see it, but I can totally visualize Cat Noir walking into the house and Shadow Moth standing there and being like, Cat Noir, you stood against me. And Cat being like, no, I wasn't against you. It was just against the plan because it was bad for Paris and the world. So the fact that they're having this conversation, it's so weighted. I mean, because you literally can see like the two, like a superhero and a supervillain against each other as child and parent, and it's just crazy. But I do believe that even, you know, if Cat was standing in front of Shadow Moth knowing full well that it was his father, he would say, I'm not standing against you. There's better ways to do this, Dad. You know, this is not good for Paris. This is not good for the world. You know, you could hurt people. And I think Cat would see it that way. At least as I'm watching the reaction right now. Granted, this is nowhere near as big as what Shadow Moth does on a daily basis with Akumas. I am starting to think that maybe Cat won't react as explosively as we have seen like in Cat Blanc. So, you know, we get past that whole him just walking in, but then we see Gabriel do this, and like he holds up his hand and like covers Adrian's face in the screen. You animate things intentionally. You don't just like willy-nilly put a character here and have him block somebody's face like this so the character's like going around to see. You don't do that. It was done very intentionally, and it was done intentionally so we could see his ring. He holds up his hand as if to kind of give Adrian the sign to just stop talking because he is done listening. And he tells Adrian to go to his room, and then we see Gabriel turn around and he's twisting his ring. It's got this very like menacing music. It feels very heavy and it's very strange. And I know a lot of people have speculated that Adrian is a sentient monster. And I almost believed it from this scene. Almost. I entertained the idea for a few minutes, and then logically it was like, that doesn't make sense. But that ring is important. I'm thinking, you know, we'll get some more information on it, you know, in the episode Gabriel Agrest. That it's right before this one, chronologically speaking. But hopefully, you know, hopefully it'll make more sense why he messed with the ring the way he did. All right, guys, so that is my analysis and my thoughts on Mega Leech. Let me know what you thought of the episode below in the comments, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye, guys!